Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode. So I haven't posted in a while. I've been making videos, just nothing super interesting has happened, so I haven't been uploading. Went duck hunting a couple times. Didn't get anything the first time. The second time, I used new ammo. I have had some pretty interesting stuff happen with that ammo, so you should expect a video coming on the new brand of ammo that I'm using. And I'm hoping that the ammo is okay. Let's just say I didn't shoot well with it. That could have just been me being out of practice. It could have just been me having to adjust, the psychological factor of the ammo. But I cut open a couple shells, found some interesting stuff. So videos coming on that this weekend. I'm gonna pattern the gun with the old ammo that I was using. I have a box left of it. I ordered some more ammo of a different brand just in case this stuff doesn't work, but I think that it's gonna work out just fine. I think it was probably just me throwing my shots, but we'll see. Today's video is a top 5 shotguns that you should have if you're gonna bird hunt or just small game hunt in general here in Michigan. Sorry that the lighting is weird. I hope it doesn't look bad when I'm back here. I'm trying out a new look to my to the way I show off these guns. So let's get into it. Let's start off with number 1. All right, number 1 on the list. We're gonna start out with the smallest gun possible, work our way up. So this is my first gun, actually. This is a 410 single shot made by Rossi. 3-inch chamber, fairly small barrel. I can't remember the exact length on it. It's probably somewhere between 16 and 20, I would say. Fully synthetic stock. This is the breakdown model. It also came with a 22 barrel. So I got this gun, God, when I was 10, I believe. So it breaks down to 3 pieces here. No, earlier than 10, 8 or 9, because when I was 10, I got my next gun here. But this gun has been carried through the woods a lot. Seen a lot of abuse. I killed quite a few squirrels with this gun. My brother killed his first squirrel with this gun. I might not have killed my first squirrel with this gun, but it's definitely fun. I've used this with the 22 barrel for trapping. But anyway, let's get into the uses of this gun. So this is a single shot, obviously. So it's not going to be very useful for waterfowl or anything like that. But on the opposite of that, it comes with sling studs in it. So you can put a sling on this little thing. It's super safe for a first gun. It's got a safety on the side as well as a hammer. Usually I don't actuate the safety. I usually just actuate the hammer. Because if you have the safety and the hammer decocked, so say you have your safety on and this decocked, then to shoot, when you pull the trigger and fire, you hit that safety. And that's happened to me quite a few times where I pulled back on a squirrel, ready to fire, pulled the hammer back, and that happened. And then you have to recock it, switch the safety off, and get back on there and hope that they haven't moved. But this gun right here is awesome for squirrels. It's a great squirrel gun if you're treeing squirrels. I've shot this, I had my, she got put down this year, but my grandpa's dog, Daisy, she'd go out with me and she'd chase squirrels up trees for me. And then I'd pace off about 20 yards under the tree, wait for her to circle around or whatever, or throw a rock to the other side, they'd circle back around. And you usually lay into them with 1 3-inch shell and they'd fall. Sometimes with 2 3/4, it'd take 1 or 2 hits before they came down, depending on how far back you were. But rabbits, this is also an okay flush gun for rabbits. Because it's a single shot, you really have to be accurate. You're not going to get a quick follow-up shot like you would on a pump or a semi. But this thing, just for how light it is, I've carried this thing a lot. This thing is almost something that, like you could almost like hang this at your belt or something. But yeah, just a great gun, super cheap, great starter gun here in Michigan. Like I said, if you're going to give a kid, not a kid, but like a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, on private property, you're going to give them something to go mess around with, try to shoot squirrels or rabbits or whatever, or even quail or whatever, this is a great gun to start out with because of how safe it is. It's one shot and then you're done. And two, with that 22 barrel, you can also give them some fun target practicing or whatever for really cheap. So that's number one on the list, the smallest caliber that I have and the smallest gun compact wise. So let's get into number two here. Set this down. Number two here is slightly modified. So this here's number two. You'll notice it's really short, and actually if I bring up the 410, it's only a couple inches longer than that single shot 410. And that's butt to butt. There, you guys probably can see that. So this is my Mossburg Patriot 20 gauge pump action shotgun. This is the youth model. So I got this gun when I was 10. My grandpa, when we turned 10, so I was super into hunting as a kid. I wanted I always wanted a shotgun. I was like, I want a shotgun, I want a shotgun, I want a shotgun. So he caved in, bought me one early, a single shot, you know, not that I could use for duck hunting or anything, but something that I could go, you know, behind his house on private land and go shoot some squirrels with. This now, got when I was 10, and I gotta say, I don't recommend the youth model, for one thing. The way the youth model is set up, it doesn't hold well over time. So when I got this as a kid, the hand was fit good, it was great, and now they do come with spacers, and I lost mine, of course I did, but it does come with spacers, and I like it actually short like this, but the actual handle here, the grip, is super short in this distance here, and so when you're holding it, it's when you choke up, your hand is very much in view of your sight picture. It doesn't really get in the way, but it's noticeable, and it's something that if you don't have your thumb placed quite right, it can get in the way of your sight picture. Now, this gun was originally, I believe, a 22-inch barrel, possibly a 25, I can't quite remember, but it was definitely a longer barrel. What happened was this gun, so when you're 10, you know, there's not really many opportunities that you get to go out hunting by yourself, and so, you know, this thing maybe got busted out 3-4 times by myself. Well, one time we brought it out, we had some 20 gauge ammo at a party. It was the first one on top of the safe. My grandpa, he grabbed one of the 20 gauges. We went out skeet shooting, lead shot. So when a gun's brand new, you put the choke tube in, or the choke tube comes, you have to double check to make sure they're tight. What happened was we believe that the choke tube never got checked. The first time, like after we shot it a couple times, we never checked it to make sure that it stayed tight. And basically the first, I don't know, that much of the barrel blew out. The choke tube ripped out. There was a bulge in the barrel. The barrel bulged about a ½ inch. So we cut this down. You know, we tried to talk to Mossburg. We were like, hey, this thing has less than 100 rounds through it. You know, this is definitely a, you know, we were like, this is a manufacturer's defect or something. You guys didn't put the choke tube in properly. And they're like, sorry, if it was the choke tube that blew out, that's user error. It says in the manual, you got to tighten it yourself. So we looked into another barrel. The barrel's about $200 now, which is, I think, what my grandpa paid for the whole gun. So he was like, well, you know, he gave me another gun. And he's like, well, you're a bigger kid now anyway. You know, I was, I think, 13 at the time. He's like, you can handle a 12 gauge. He's like, we'll look at getting a 12 gauge for you. We cut this down, and something that it turned out to be really good for is flushing quail and partridge and woodcock at super close quarters. It's a super shorty. It's about as short as you can get without putting a pistol grip on it. And I believe we have an extra inch on this. So this is, I believe, in Michigan, it has to be a 18-inch barrel. It's, okay, not gonna say, I know it's an inch above the requirement. I believe if it's 18, like I think it is for shotguns, then it's a 19-inch barrel. If it's 16, it's a 17-inch barrel. But it's almost as short as you can go. With this youth stock, it's about as short as you can go. Super lightweight, super reliable. I do recommend, if you wanted to get the full size for a child, you could cut down the stock and then buy a brand new stock. The stocks are cheap, actually. But for flushing quail in tight cover, this thing swings really easily. It stays short. Your sight picture is great, and just pulling that trigger and actuating it is really easy. 3-inch chamber. It's a really, really good, really good quail partridge gun. Also, even with this barrel cut the way it is, it's an awesome, well, it's a really good rabbit gun with this open cylinder bore, how it is, and it's a decent little squirrel rifle, so, or squirrel shotgun, excuse me. So it kicks pretty soft. My brother, he's 13, he only weighs 120 pounds, he's tiny. Kick is really bothers him. He's not very big framed, so the 410 and the 20 gauge are what he usually busts out when we're going squirrel hunting. So another awesome little gun there, but I do recommend not getting the youth if you're gonna have a gun that's gonna be a stage gun and gonna go up and up with that kid. Next gun on our list is only a couple inches bigger, completely different manufacturer, and the quality difference between this gun here and that gun there is insane. So this was my older brother's gun. This is a Remington 870 in 20 gauge. So it's another 20 gauge. That gun was my first gun. This was his first gun. So this gun has less than 50 rounds put through it as a 2020. This gun was given to my brother, brand new from the factory. Let me see now. He's 19, 20, in 2011, if my math serves me there. In 2011 or 2010, he got this gun. So 50 rounds for nearly a decade, if not a decade. And let me just tell you, this gun is beautiful. It's ribbed barrel here. It has, I don't know what you'd call that, texture engraving, laser cut into the actual rail here. It's lasered, a single bead on the front. It does have a removable choke, which is awesome. And let me just tell you, for an adult, or adult-sized guy, I'm 17, so I'm not quite an adult, but I'm adult size. I'm 6 foot, 245 pounds. It shoulders really well. This thing is awesome, and it's not a super short. It's not as low as you can go. I believe it's about 3 inches or 4 inches over the minimum requirement here in the United States. Really easy to plug this gun. It does have a polymer trigger guard. You know, it is what it is. But this thing shoots awesome. It has a modified choke in it. I believe it came with a full set of chokes. I have to find those. But this thing is sweet. So this is supposed to be 5 guns video. I have 6 guns. Really, the 410 I would suggest going with a single shot, if not a 410, a single shot 16 gauge or 20 gauge is awesome starter gun. The mossburg you can really get rid of, and you can shoot quail if you get a Remington cylinder bore choke. You can shoot quail with this gun just as easily. It has a little bit more weight, so if you are going to go duck hunting with this gun, this is a gun that you can use. Compared to the other two, you really can't. But this has a little bit more weight for wide open shots. You know, if you're hunting in a wider open marsh or diver hunting, this is a gun that has more weight. It's going to give you more swing and be able to follow that bird a little bit better and shoot a little bit better on those little bit tighter shots. So really awesome, really easy to use, and these guns are fairly cheap. I mean, I've never bought one brand new. I have one used of mine, but I didn't buy this one brand new, so I wouldn't know. Really easy to clean on these. The one thing though is, compared to the other 2 guns, and really the other 3 that I have, the finish on this gun is terrible. For rust, it absorbs oil like crazy. Oil does not stay on this gun. I oiled this gun yesterday, and the oil is already gone. Barely any is on my hands. This gun, when we took this out duck hunting for the youth hunt, it got submerged in water. We took on some water in the boat, put it in the case, got home, about a 45-minute drive. By the time I got home, pulled it out of my truck, unzipped it, covered in rust. I had to spend an hour cleaning it. If you keep oil on it, put oil on it before each trip. That's probably not going to happen. Also, if you don't submerge it in water, but it is a resilient finish. It did clean up nicely, and it didn't scratch too bad. So let's move on to the next gun here. Like I said, we're going largest to smallest, or smallest to largest, excuse me. This is the next smallest gun I have. This is one of mine. Now, I'm not sure on the year on this gun, so let me go over the history of it. This is a Remington 1100 LT 20 gauge. So it's a Remington 1100. LT is light. Some people call these ultra lights. I've heard people call them that. I believe ultra light is a different Remington. It's a different style of gun, an ultralight is. But this gun's designed to be a field gun. So it's a fixed full choke. I can tell you that this gun was made, let's see, what would that be? Pre-80s it was made. So it was made pre-80s. It is a beautiful gun, engravings on both sides of the receiver. I hope you guys can see that, both sides of the receiver, and as well as the actual firing pin and bolt carrier group are engraved, as well as this awesome engraving on the stock here, and in your handle is also done. The wood grain isn't as cool as that 20 gauge 870, but it is a little bit better than my other 870. So this is my great grandfather's gun. He passed away, I don't even know when, well before I was born though. He passed away. My great grandmother held on to all of his guns. Most of them got passed on to my grandpa. But this gun, my mom, when she was, I think 18, she was like, I want a shotgun. It also has a deer barrel with it that I have. She bought it off her for $200, I believe, or $150. And it's a sweet little gun, let me tell you. So fixed full choke, so it's not going to be a super close range gun, but for squirrels up in trees, it's awesome, especially if it's a little bit longer ranges. For rabbits that are flushing in wide open fields, like I said, this was made to be a field gun. It's made for pheasant in tall grass fields where you're shooting in high winds at 20, 30 yards at pheasants. That's what this was meant for. Also, another good thing with that fixed choke is duck hunting. This thing is a killer at long ranges. The 20 gauge in high winds is a terrible cartridge to use in high winds for diver hunting. But with this fixed full choke, this thing can reach out and poke almost as well as a 12 gauge with a modified choke can. This is a 3-inch Magnum receiver, so it's got a lot of zip to it. You definitely wouldn't want to get your hand stuck in between that bolt carrier and the chamber. You would definitely smash something. It does have the locking ammo slide here. I'm not sure actually what they call it, feed ramp, sorry. It does have a locking feed ramp, so you have to either use your finger or a shell, stick it on the silver button here, and then it feeds into your tube. This thing is just awesome. It's an inertia shotgun, semi-auto, like I said. Super easy to plug. There's your inertia, your big heavy weight, so when you shoot, that weight drives back, it presses against the spring slows it down, and then the spring drives it back forward. So this gun is awesome. I've never had any problems with this. My mom gave this to me last year. So it hasn't seen much action as a field gun yet, but it's seen a lot of action as a deer hunter and deer hunting gun, at least from my mom. I'm not sure how much my great-grandfather used it as a field gun, but I'm excited to use it for squirrel this year. I'm definitely going to take it out duck hunting at least a couple times and see if we can't put down some ducks with it. But really awesome. I know that they make 1100s still. My grandpa has one in 12 gauge and he likes it. They're beautiful guns, they really are. I know they make them, like I said, I know they make them, but I don't believe they engrave the receiver like this anymore. And with this light action, this thing weighs, even though it's a semi-auto inertia fed with a full-size barrel, this barrel is as long as my 12 gauge and my 870 12 gauge are. This thing weighs just about as much as this 870 here in 20 gauge. So this thing is a short barrel, and when you pick it up, like most guns, it just melts away in your hands. There's no weight there. You can hold, I can hold that for 5-10 minutes if I needed to, right there. Straight out, same thing, a little bit worse as it always is. Aiming down is better, high up, but in the middle is kind of tough, relatively speaking. This gun, even though it's got probably 1.5 times the barrel length, when you pick it up, it just melts away. It's like you're holding nothing. And especially with this wood stock, You'd expect this to be a super heavy gun, or at least heavier than a pump, like most semi-autos are. And honestly, it's not. It's almost lighter in my opinion, though I haven't done a weight test on them. So, all right, that's the 1100. I can also recommend this gun. Though I wouldn't suggest giving this to your kid, like a 10-year-old, like I was saying. I wouldn't suggest giving this to a 10-year-old and letting them run around with it. One, obviously, you know, if you're gonna give your kid a gun, they know gun safety, but semi-autos can get away from you. I've seen it happen before, where you almost bump fire it, where you pull the trigger, it comes back, it comes forward, and bump fires. So, you know, I've seen people double shoot on accident. Not saying that's gonna happen, but that, along with the fact that if you have an old gun like this, you don't want it getting rusted up. You're gonna want to keep this thing as nice as you can while still using it. I'm definitely gonna. This thing isn't a safe clean. It's gonna get used, but it's gonna be oiled up after each use. So, but little scratches I don't mind in it just because of the history on it. Now we're getting into the dedicated guns here. These are my duck guns. These things have both been set up for me to go duck hunting with. The 1100, I still have to get a permanent plug in it for duck hunting. Right now, it just has a dowel that's taped up, put inside of it, so it rattles. I'm actually not sure if that model, because it's so old, I'm not sure. It just has a very small opening on it. It might not actually take a plug. It might just be the dowels that it takes. But so this is my 870. This is older. This is, I looked it up, this is a 90s gun, I believe. The finish is a little bit better on it, not quite as bad as the other one. The stock is quite as pretty. This gun right here, length of draw on it's perfect. You know, I really do dig the length of draw on this gun a lot. The comb is super thin on it. I do have a clamp-on Remington bead on the front there, so that's fun. Low light scenarios, that's a lot better to see your bead. This does have a duck plug in it. So this receiver actually came, when it was bought, it had a smooth bore slug barrel on it with modified. It was about that long. No duck plug, so I found a barrel used, I don't know what you'd call it, a duck barrel is what I'd call it, with chokes that change. It had a trap choke in it, so somebody was using this barrel as a trap gun. Took out the trap, put in a steel-proof modified OEM from Remington. I then bought a OEM Remington 12-gauge duck plug, slapped it in here, and this thing has served me now for 1 season. I've taken it out 2 times. It's gonna get some more use this year, hopefully. Just trying to rotate guns and see as much action as each of these guys can before something new comes along and kind of pushes these away, because I do like to use these older guns. So pretty basic, like I said, I've talked about the 870 a lot there. It's a longer barrel. It doesn't melt away. A little bit heavier than the, a lot heavier than the 20 gauge. And when you hold it up, it's definitely more noticeable, haft. But it does have a nice swing to it, and when you're duck hunting or wing shooting, it is nice to have that little bit of extra barrel length to reach out there and poke them. So we're on to the last gun here. Let me tell you, this gun is probably one of my favorite guns. This is the gun that my grandpa replaced the Mossburg with. It's a Beretta A300 Outlander duck gun, semi-auto, inertia, 3-inch, not a 3.5, but I don't like shooting 3.5. No matter what you say, unless you're using a super doped up gas gun, especially with the inertias, they scream. If you're using an inertia or a pump to shoot 3.5s, your shoulder's gonna be banged up like no other. Not to mention they're way more expensive than 3-inch. And I prefer to mold the gun around the shells if I have to, or sorry, yes, mold the gun no, how does that work? Yeah, mold the gun around the shells, not the shells around the gun. So whatever I put in here, I can modify my choke to fit that. So right now I use modified with number 2 and number 3 shot. Like I said, when I was talking about that new ammo, it's number 3 shot. It's a brand that I've used in the past, but it's a new type of shell. The quality's not quite as good, but I bought 100 rounds, so I'm gonna try to pattern it, and I'm hoping that my terrible shooting was just me. It definitely wasn't the gun. The gun's perfect. I've killed tons of ducks with it before. So I'm gonna try to use my modified, and I'm 80% positive that it was just my fault, user error, not the gun or the shells. But there's that 20% in the back of my mind. And for me to go up my next big duck trip, October 3rd is next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. And let me just tell you, going up on a big 3-day trip like that for an opener and not having confidence in your equipment is just a killer. It's been weighing on my mind. I mean, I haven't been able to do this. I've been doing my schoolwork and stuff during the week here, and it's been weighing on my mind super hard. It's been hard to, not want to drive out, out to my woods and go pattern this thing just to get that confidence back in my mind, just to know, just so I can be certain, be like, okay, it is the shells. Excuse me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry, my heater was on, and I was sweating. So, like I said, it's been picking at my mind. It's like, is it your shells or your shells? Did you buy crappy shells? Well, what if, it's like, well, what if, if you don't know for sure, and then you go up there and the shells that you order online don't come in time. It's like, dang it, So I ordered 2 boxes of Winchester Super X number 2 shot, because I've shot those out of my gun. I know they do okay. A reason that I don't think that it's the shells is because I had a box of Winchester Super X number 2s on board, and I did a little bit better hitting one duck at a longer range. Not enough to wound it. I was probably shooting 50 yards there, but it hit it, and you could definitely tell that it impacted. So, I only, I shot, I think, 20 shells. So it could be the ammo, could not be, but I ordered some Winchester Super X number 2 shot just in case. I'll be patterning Winchester Super X number 2, Herder's Field Select, and Herder's waterfowl ammunition. Field Select I've done really great with. I cut open the shells, saw some stuff. I don't want to go too in depth, but I'm gonna try Field Select because I know that works. I got a box of that left. Couldn't find any this year. That's why I switched up to Herder's waterfowl. Same size in Herder's waterfowl. All right, sorry about that again, guys. So we're gonna be patterning Super X number 2s, the new stuff, and the stuff I was using last year. The stuff I was using last year, I want to get a baseline on how good I was shooting last year. I haven't changed anything except the shells, so I'll be able to tell exactly what, at 35, what exactly my pattern is looking like. I got 30-inch circles, so I'll be shooting that. Then number 2s, just to make sure that those are going to fire good out of my gun. And if we have to, we're going to switch up chokes. We're going to switch up from modified to full. If that pattern is shooting really wide at 35 on those new shells, we're going to be trying to zero in with a full choke. But I'm pretty dang confident, knock on wood here, that that was just me shooting that. But one thing about this gun is I'm at a really weird draw length where I have this 1-inch spacer in here. It's in the gun, works well, but it's just, when I got this gun originally, it was about 1 inch too long, but we didn't take that spacer out. We were just like, we'll grow into it. And now it's just, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, because the actual thing, I'm looking at it here, it's actually a little shorter than that 870, and I think it's just because it's a wider stock. It's a lot thicker, so it feels like it's more, but it shoulders well. It's just something that you got to get used to. Definitely if I took that 1-inch spacer, I would be a little bit cramped for room here. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe and all that, and see you guys later. Peace out. See ya.